Michael Doherty, PRO of the Micah Action Group. Good morning to you.
Morning, Greg.
Thanks for joining us. €350,000 cap. What kind of a scheme might this be?
That would be a very disappointing scheme, Greg. Just calling a spade here. We were clear all along that we needed to ensure that we had 100%, no less, and that's been our mantra all along here. We have a situation that we know if we come in at 350k of a cap, we leave 40% of our homeowners behind, and that's not an acceptable position to us.
And how is this 350,000 today is a completely different 350,000 from this day last year in terms of, the spiralling costs of construction and what have you? Is it acceptable on any level? But is it linked to inflation, or do we know any of that detail?
No, we don't have that level of detail, Greg. And I know from inside sources that they were reluctant to link it to make it index linked as well, which is even more concerning. But you're right. There's even the 350k has to be underpinned by two different very important aspects. One of them is we already put together what we call the SCSI calculator, which was basically the mechanism used by the insurance industry to work out the true costs. That's updated every April. We know even since April of this year, things have moved on quite a bit. We had a square foot figure that was agreed per house size or buckets of house sizes between ourselves and the housing agency, not the housing department now, the housing agency. And that figure was agreed at. From what I'm led to believe is they're actually reviewing that number as well. So if that number goes south, that's not good. That means that we're working with something that was less than the April true cost. And the other very important part of that, Greg, is that even with that number is a budget that a homeowner has in their hip pocket to take to the market. And we're seeing some scary numbers coming back from contractors at the minute. So we could have a massive disconnect there on a couple of levels, even at 350k, regardless of what the number is in terms of a cap. If there's a cap at all, it's making it work that we have contractors prepared to work at what is deemed to be the true cost prices by the SCSI calculator. We could still have a massive disconnect there.
How will this impact whether a house is up for demolition? Or now, I think there's not. I wouldn't say it's a consensus, but a general feeling I get, and you know much better than I, that outer leaf is not a solution here. That eventually we'll have to return to the problem and go inner leaf as well. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that one. But is this 350,000 to encourage people to go for other options, or what is that part of it, or what?
Yeah, well, maybe take the first part there, because I think that part's important about the outer leaf, the outer leaf remediation option. We're affected homeowners ourselves. Every one of us is in the campaign, and nobody wants a sort of half-baked solution of any kind. There are homes out there that we know that went ahead and did their own outer leafs, and they're now cracking inside. When we put that to the housing department, their response to that was that it was quite possible, because these blocks were never tested, nobody knows what level of cement content was in them. Nobody knows what level of mica was in them. And if you've got a perfect storm, i.e. low cement content, high mica, then regardless of whether you have got massive cracking or not, the remediation option recommended may well be take that house down. So whenever we go to the housing department and say we've got examples of outer leafs that were changed and the inside is now cracking, they say, well, without testing, we can't say whether our scheme would have recommended an outer leaf or not. It's quite possible those that did an outer leaf would have been recommended for a complete demolish from the off through the scheme if it had been done through the scheme. So that's just to address that. So there is some science still to be applied around that that's yet to be revealed, I believe. And I do believe there's still a need for more research. But even with the work that's been done to date, we can't really point the scheme to houses retrospectively and say, well, outer leaf failed, which means every house has to come down. We just don't know what the testing would have shown if it had been tested. That's the first thing. The second point there, Greg, in around the 350. Sorry, just remind me of the second point again you were making.
I don't know. I was listening to you so intently there. But we'll come back to that, because I think really that you addressed the main point of that question, and it kind of covered the second part of it as well. I just want to know what the process is here, though, because I don't know if this is kite flying or whatever. Who leaked it? What the benefit is to leak it? I would presume that the housing minister, if he wanted to keep this completely under wraps, that he could, he could limit the amount of people that know about this and the finer detail. But for whatever reason, it's been put out into the public domain. Why do you think that's happened? Or do you think it's intentional? I'll put that to you, sorry, Michael, and then I'll bring Martin back in. Martin, I just want to put that point to you, Michael.
Difficult to know. I actually had a phone call. Yeah. I had a phone call from the minister over the weekend there, and he's trying to assure me here that not to get too excited about the numbers that's been shown, that it's still there to play for. I have responded and I've told him I'm increasingly concerned at the level of kite flying that's going on. There are certain things coming through. Stephen O'Brien reported yesterday in the Sunday Times some information in and around, for example, the holiday homes and all of that. And I would like to come back on that one at some point there, Greg, because that was actually a suggestion from ourselves for a good reason, which probably needs explained. But the fact that that was coming back through government channels suggests that their sources are reasonable or reliable. And that would be a great concern, that 350k might actually be what they come forward with. But I think a very important point here is that we don't have a yea or nay on this. The government do not need our sign-off to implement 350k or any other number. All we can do as a lobby group is to put forward the case what we're prepared to support and what we're not. 350 is not what we would be prepared to support, quite simply. But, just so as people are clear, we don't have a place where we sign this off and say, yes, that's acceptable, or no, it's not. Government will do what government are going to do, and we have to react accordingly and then look at the next stage in the campaign on the back of that. Councillor
Martin McDermott, we've talked about how this cap would leave many people behind. It's worrying if this is the culmination of everything that's happened this year, but obviously over the course of the last decade and beyond. This would not be acceptable to you, I presume.
No, I think, Greg, and as Michael has clearly stated there, the 350 leaves 39-40% of the people behind. That's through the scheme. The first 135 houses that are through the scheme for demolish. So that at 350 leaves families having to dip into their own pockets again to get their houses fixed.
And that's a really important point, because what we've learned time and time again is that it doesn't mean that 40% of the people will get their houses fixed contributing, because they simply do not have the money, or they're being offered really unattractive financial options by their banks. So it leaves people behind completely. They will not be able to engage in this scheme if it's adopted as is being suggested.
No, absolutely, and I suppose again we're only taking what is printed in the media over the weekend. It's not out that is exactly what's happening. They're talking about an appeals process for houses that are over that amount of money, so that if your house was costing over the 350, that there was an appeals process there. We don't know what that entails, we don't know how that's going to work. But certainly, from our perspective, it's not what we have been pushing for, and it's not the outcome that we want.
What next? I mean, obviously, you have a meeting a little later on this morning, don't you, with government representatives? I presume that these points will be made very strongly to them.
Absolutely. I mean, look, Greg, this needs to come to an end. We need to get a day that we can get an announcement that works, because people's mental health, people's anxiety. We're coming into a time of year now in November, coming into December, we're coming into Christmas. People have to have hope. People have to get this disaster time behind them and try to look forward and have something to look forward to. And I think that the next few days is vital in this. There's lots of other issues, Greg, as me and you has discussed, and Michael on a number of occasions. There's people I know, I had people on during your programme last week that have been through the scheme and now have found themselves in the position that their house has deteriorated over the last year and a half from they got into the process at the start, going back to April, May of 2020 up to now in late 2021. And they have been through the scheme, and they have been granted a grant to do remedial works that now is not sufficient. So those people can't be left behind either. We have to have a situation that those people can get back into the scheme and can get other remedial works done.
But Michael, I think, thanks, Councillor Michael, I think what might be going on here is, though, that the general population will see that the government has improved this scheme, that a certain amount of people will get their houses fully restored. It'll probably then start a conversation about more expensive houses and should the state be responsible for that, including holiday homes, including the housing crisis, including rental properties. And I'd imagine that the government will say that this will play out very well for them, for the mass population, albeit not for those directly affected by that. Would you share that fear?
Yeah, I do, Greg, and I think we've seen them dipping their toe in the water in terms of public opinion throughout the land already. The pitching homeowner against homeowner regarding those not affected paying for those that are affected. This stuff about the mansions on the hill type stuff, which we were able to dispel as well. We've had many things thrown out there already that we've had to come back with facts on. It's been embarrassingly poor that our government have found it appropriate to launch these various accusations and statements of fact that were an actual, couldn't be further from the fact. And we as a lobby group have done very, very well in dispelling all that stuff. But I think the reality is, right, they'll be looking for a scheme that not necessarily addresses the majority need of the homeowner, but is palatable to the majority of the people in the land. And I think that's, again, part of the shame of this entire process.
I mean, we don't have time, unfortunately, to talk.
How little can they get away with?
Yeah, I don't think we have time to talk about what's next. You guys have another appointment, but we're going to have to come back to this, obviously, as we do. Yeah. But I'll let you go because I do understand
Greg,
that. Yes.
Yeah. Greg, just if I can come in very quickly on the holiday home one there.
No, it's your meeting. You can stay here till 10.
Yeah.
Carry on.
That's okay.
I'm not worried about that. Carry on.
They can wait. We've been waiting for 10 years for them. So where we are on the holiday home one, Greg, quite simply, is that the scheme originally was principal private residence only. The Leinster Pyrite scheme was either principal private residence or your buy to let, but not both. We have asked for an enhancement on the Pyrite one, which is not the holiday home. We have asked for the principal private residence plus the buy to let people. Okay, so we think we have that fairly well secured, but we do not want to leave the holiday homeowners behind. Back to your point earlier regarding the public opinion throughout the land there, they seem to be hell bent on not giving these trophy homeowners with holiday homes public finance to go ahead and repair their affected holiday home. So what we did, we were told that was absolutely a no-go area. So in the interest of trying to make it a somewhat go area, we said, what about trying to address the housing crisis we've got up here? Because they're talking about buying in mobile homes, they're talking about building modular homes, all at great expense. And yet if I take my own wee village of Kildaff, there's probably about 80 holiday homes and nobody in it. And I'm going, this doesn't make sense. So what can we do to utilise that capacity that's available
and I get that,
in that market?
I get that, and it's a good idea. It just feels to me a wee bit like you're leveraging people, to fix the housing crisis when really they just want their holiday homes. That sort of way. I mean, that's what feels a little bit uncomfortable for me, Michael.
And when we get into these negotiation stages, though, Greg, we never get what's ideal. And the holiday homeowners that I've talked to already would say, yeah, if you're telling me I have to put out my home for, say, 3 years to the rental market, and then I qualify automatically at the end, not as a holiday home anymore. Because you put your home into the rental market, you're then seen as part of the rental sector. That's how it can work for those that want it. Now, those that don't want to do that, unfortunately, I don't have any answers for them.
Right, I get you. It's a half a loaf is better than no bread at all kind of a situation. Right, I get that.
Exactly.
Thanks for your time, Michael, this morning. I appreciate it greatly. And Councillor Martin McDermott. That's Michael Doherty, PRO of the Micro Action Group. Councillor Martin McDermott.